I see this question all the time. What is the best day to launch a new podcast to reach the most people? Well, the answer is Monday or Tuesday, but honestly, what's more important is that you have a plan ready so that when you launch your podcast, you're ready to promote it on social media, you have some people that will rally around you and share that episode, and you have a plan to get the word out. So here are 7 things you need to do before you launch that new podcast to make sure everything is set to go and you can reach your audience. Step 1, and this is super practical, find a great podcast host and have your trailer and first episode ready and published to that RSS feed. You can use services like Buzzsprout or Transistor.fm, and then you can submit that RSS feed to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It could take a few hours up to a day to make sure your podcast is live and searchable for everyone in those apps. If you need help submitting your podcast to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we have a video tutorial on that. You can check it out above or in the description. Number 2, you should decide on a release schedule and make sure you say that in your first episode. Is this going to be a weekly podcast or bi-weekly? When listeners know when to expect the next episode, they're more likely to follow and join you on this journey. Before you launch, it might also be helpful to have a few episodes already recorded and in the can, so to speak, so that you're not under pressure or stress to try and release that weekly podcast recording right before you need to release it. So have a few episodes in the can and make sure you have your release schedule public and known to your listeners. Number 4, have an entire launch plan ready for the actual day. What are your social media posts on all the different platforms? You should be making clips of your podcast. Hopefully you did video. And if you need help with that, we can show you how to build a video podcast setup above or the link in the description. But you should have those vertical clips that you're going to share to YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Reels on the day that you launch. And you really need to share those vertical clips every weekday, Monday through Friday. Now, if you record with Riverside, we make it easy to make those vertical clips right in the Riverside editor. You can edit your content with a text-based editor. We have AI transcriptions in over 100 languages. If you want to edit, just delete words you see in the transcription and it will be removed from the timeline. And then you can export those minute-long clips ready to promote your show. Have a launch email ready, and you can start building that email list before you launch. If you have that landing page, you could say sign up to be notified of the first episode or any ongoing news about your podcast. Also have some social media posts ready that will tag people of interest in the topic or genre of your podcast. This way, when you launch, you might be able to get the attention of some of those larger names. They might share it. So tag some people that might be interested in your topic. Also, before you launch, Apple Podcasts has a form where you can actually request to be featured in the Apple Podcasts app. This would be huge for discoverability, and there's lots of podcast newsletters where you can request your show to be announced to their followers. We'll put links in the video description to be featured on Apple Podcasts and some email newsletters you might want to join. Number 5, when you're considering a date to launch, again, Monday and Tuesday, lots of people are online, they're at work, they're active on the internet. Those are good days to launch. But what you really need to watch out for are other big events in the industry that might actually take attention away from the launch of your podcast. Apple is holding its big WWDC event every June. Don't launch your podcast on the day of that keynote. Is YouTube or Spotify holding a big event around music and podcasts themselves? Don't launch your podcast around that. Now, you can take advantage of big events. Let's say your podcast is about the entertainment industry, a TV show, or movie. Well, you know the Academy Awards are going to be on a Sunday night. Launching the Monday right after that and trying to ride that wave, the trending topics from the Academy Awards, might actually help increase the viewership and audience for your launch. So you can try to plan around big events if it's in your industry, but you should look for a lull. You like that alliteration? Look for a lull in the news, product launches, or releases from big companies, and this way your podcast has a greater chance of making the news. Number 6, you might want to consider a soft launch for your podcast or giving your first episode to a small group of people. Hopefully this group of people will be very excited and inclined to share your podcast once it launches publicly. If you'd like to learn more about doing a soft launch for your podcast, we have a video on that above or the link in the description. But having a small group of people that are really excited about your podcast is one of the best ways to get the word out. And make the ask. Ask them to share the podcast, the links to the episode, have them retweet, repost, or share on their Instagram stories once the podcast goes live. And that'll be a great way to kind of have a grassroots promotion of your new show. And number 7, launch your podcast. You've decided on a date, you've chosen a day of the week, probably a Monday or Tuesday, avoided big events or taken advantage of big events in your niche. You have your small group of people that are ready to share the show once it's public, and you're ready to launch. Schedule those social media posts. Make sure you're on every platform, TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, that you're sharing audiograms, maybe to your Instagram feed, and also sharing on Twitter, LinkedIn, just everywhere. Get the word out, start building that email list, and point people to your podcast website. And then make sure you do it again every episode. Whenever you release a new episode for your podcast, have that mini marketing plan where you have social media posts. Your groundswell of those really invested in the podcast will also share those episodes. and release consistently. Try to stay ahead of your release schedule so you're not under pressure to record last minute. And remember, most podcasts don't make it past 10 episodes. So if you can just make it past 10 episodes, you're already in the top 10% of podcasts and you have a greater chance of success. Again, if you need help building that video podcast setup, we have great videos. Check out the playlist above or in the description and subscribe to the Riverside channel. We have videos on podcast artwork, how to promote your podcast, market or monetize your podcast, and why you should do video and upload it to a YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next video.